सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। हरि ओम। Page number 220. Karma Yoga, path of action. Karma means action, and Karma Yoga is the path of action designed for persons in the active category. Action is inevitable as long as one is alive. Since every human being is constituted of vasanas, desires, one's vasanas forcibly manifest themselves as thoughts, desires, and actions. A human is bound to act, but is free to choose the type of action he executes. Karma Yoga provides the course of right action leading one towards spiritual evolution. All creatures except human beings have a built-in program to conduct themselves in the nature of their particular species. Just as the carnivore and the herbivore merely display their distinct and different natures. Only human beings have the choice of action. No other creature is faced with the dilemma of choice. Since humans are confronted with this problem, the path of action is laid down for their guidance to a better life, towards evolution. The spiritual courses study, we are moving on to the study of Karma Yoga, the path of action. The path of action is designed for active type of personalities. Active type means they are sometimes emotional, sometimes intellectual. They have both in them. They are neither emotional nor intellectual. The emotions that they experience and the thinking that they have both are superficial in nature. That's the meaning of it. When we say balanced, both are there. Active people means both are superficial. There is no depth in their emotions nor in their thinking. That is the active category. You can't say they don't have, because if you are not having emotions or thinking, you will fall into the category of indolent. Okay, that is a different category. This category is they have it, but there is no depth to their emotions or depth to their thinking. Deep emotions are not there. What are the emotions they have? The moment we say an emotional personality, what strikes the person straight away is his attachments, anger, jealousy. Those things only will come in the mind. You never get the thought of people who are highly devotional, highly compassionate, forgiveness. Those emotions will never come in the surface. The experience of such emotions will be far and few. Whereas the emotions such as anger, jealousy, attachment, these emotions will be predominant. When we say emotion, if at all he experiences emotions, those emotions will be falling into this category. Similarly, when you come to thinking, there it will be more with reference to intelligence than intellect. So the one whose life is mix of attachment and intelligence, they are called active personalities. And we comfortably we can come to a conclusion, vast majority will be falling into this category of active and ones, which is predominant. Remember, this is a very, very important dimension to understand in the spiritual course, because most of the time we subscribe to a spiritual course without any reference to our predominant nature. We just take to a spiritual path, we take to something because of situational things. Because I was born in that particular environment or in that particular period. You see, now imagine about 75 years back, 100 years back. 100 years back, sacrifice and service, development. To those people, 100 years back, development means what? Greatest invention is coal mine, extracting coal, extracting diamonds, extracting gold. Maximum. Try to extract as much as possible, extract oil. All that was considered as a person who is contributing for the welfare of humanity. Today, what is that? Today, we are saying, don't do all those things. Stop all that. All that is exploitation. What was considered as greatest service to humanity once is changed. So similarly, certain spiritual practices also becomes predominant during a particular period, to a particular environment, to a particular community that you are born in. You see, if you are born in a Protestant one, Protestant will go along with a Muslim, but not with the Catholic. Roman Catholic, he will not accept. Islam also, he can say, okay, that's not a problem. The real problem is with these people only, sir. Why I follow this? Why you are following it? A South Indian Brahmin will follow a particular one. He will continue to do certain things in the name of spiritual course. But you can keep doing it, but there is no evolution. Why? Because it is divorced to your particular nature. So first lesson in spiritual courses is you need to identify your predominant nature. Without reference to your predominant nature, if you take to any spiritual discipline, that is called mechanical. You are doing mechanically, is it? What is meaning of mechanicalism? When does religion has turned into mechanical? Therefore, we need to invent a new word called spiritual. See, religion means what? You are following a particular religion, meaning you are following it without any reference to your predominant nature. Now, what is your predominant nature? How do you identify? This is how we identify. Are you active? Are you emotional? Are you intellectual? Now, how can you know that? Don't take, this is where people make certain mistakes in knowing my nature. How am I to know my predominant nature, sir? There also people don't make in any effort to locate that first. Without diagnosis, if a person were to be giving prescription, let's say, that is a pharmacy fellow. In pharmacy, they give like that. A doctor will not give. Doctor will say, first get the test done. Get this diagnosis first. And then only medication will be prescribed. You see, similarly, here also we make certain mistakes, we don't diagnose. If at all you attempt to start diagnosing, you make mistakes there also. One of the mistakes we make there is, of course, mistakes mean there are so many ways you can do. Right? I'm just saying few, coming straight away. One of the mistake we make in assessing about our nature is, am I active, am I emotional, am I intellectual? Sir, what is my personality type? They take the minor aspect of your personality at times will overtake your personality. A small thing will overtake your personality. For example, in a day, your waking hours are 14 hours. Okay. In that 14 hours, let's say you are awake. I'm just assuming. Okay, 10 hours you sleep, 10 hours you are sleeping. Even if you take like that, 14 hours. In that waking hours of yours, so many of us will bracket ourselves to be, oh, he's a very angry person. How many moments of anger is experienced? The moments of anger is going to be for how long? 5%? 7% of the time? The 7% of the time expression of anger, but that 7% of the time that personality will look so intense, so solid. Remember, that will look the entire personality has taken over by that anger. In that 4-5% of anger that he is experiencing, it will appear as though it has consumed the whole thing. But what you have to understand is, it is only 5%. That 5% of it, don't spread it to the total personality. This is called a tamasic knowledge. Knowledge is, tamasic knowledge, taking a part as a whole. Same way, you will go with the positive also. Right? There are people who read few books. I remember a boy who came to me sometimes back. He said, does Swamiji give sannyasa? I want to take sannyasa. Does your guru give sannyasa? When people look at us, so many thoughts they get. Weird things and all they get. I remember one fellow asking me, do you, one car driver, who used to take me, one class, they fixed a car for me to travel. So the driver will come, pick me up, he'll drop in the class, and he'll drop me back. So the driver would come, from that agency. They fix the same driver so that they don't have to keep repeating the address. So same driver would come. One day he asked, sir, do you see Josiam? He thought I am some, Jatakam fellow who keeps looking at Jatakam and all that. And very interesting, he said, you are like that, is it? Because the music I listen to is very different in the car, So when I get into the car, I'll tell him, put on that music. So he'll put on that music, same songs and all that. So after some point, he thought I am I don't know what he thought first. Maybe he thought I am some Bahadar type first. They thought, must be because of this classical music and all we listen, So he must have thought, some Bhagavatar, going and doing music class. And then after some time he said, Josiam Solvina. I said, I am not, Josiam fellow. Each one, thinks one way. So you assess a person based on what? That minor percentage. That small percentage gets spread to the entire thing. That is not predominance, please. Then how do you assess your predominant nature? Are you emotional? Are you intellectual? Are you active? Are you indolent? How do you judge that? If you are indolent, you cannot even attempt it. If you have never attempted to know whether you are, what is this? That is called indolence. Suppose you say, sir, I've never thought of, oh, because if you are not knowing, that's okay. Even after telling you are supposed to fix your predominant nature before you take to spiritual path, if you are not doing it, that means what? That's called lazy. That is called what? Indolence. So you will belong to that category only. My assumption is you people don't belong to that category, and then I am talking. Right? Now, if you are not, then how would you see? Don't make this mistake of taking that 1% of inspiration. There are some moments of inspiration you will have. There are some moments of falling below your level, like anger. One day you read, you keep reading Ramana. 3 months you keep reading Ramana's books, Ramana Maharishi's books. You will start talking like Ramana Maharishi. All your conversations, everything. You start reading Jiddu Krishnamurti, you will also talk like Jiddu Krishnamurti. But don't think you belong to the category of intellectual. Because Ramana, Jiddu Krishnamurti and all, they belong to that intellectual category. And you will see so interesting, in this combination of masters, so interesting. Ramana Maharishi, who is a hardcore intellectual, had disciples, all of them were devotional in nature. Shankara, all his disciples were emotional in nature. So rational he was. Similarly, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, you see, such an emotional personality had a hardcore intellectual disciple like Vivekananda. Maybe they say no, opposite attracts. Maybe like that it works perhaps, I don't know. But it's so interesting to see how it is. See, by reading them, you keep reading Vivekananda's books. I asked that boy, what are the books you have been reading? Saying, I've been reading, Shivananda's books. You keep reading Shivananda's books, you will start assuming that you are supposed to take sannyasa. That's all. You are not supposed to get married. You should take sannyasa is what you will come. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. I'm only saying you read something, you get inspired. That inspired moment which has taken over your personality for a period of time should not be considered as your nature. Like anger, you should not take, which is a negative one, nor you can take moments of inspiration. Don't take moments of inspiration, don't take moments of falling also. Don't take both. 1. 2, what you should not do. I'll give you one for the other side. Then how should you go about it, sir? Consider varied experiences, unconnected new experience. There's no connection, right? It's all unconnected things. Like you go to a temple, right? To a new temple. Let's say you go to Brihadishwara temple in Tanjore, right? You go there and see what strikes you first. What is so inspiring to you there? That is the question. A person goes to the temple and starts having tears flowing when they are showing Arati, when he sees that Brihadishwara, Shivalinga. Means what? Make a note of that. Means that is emotional aspect. Active fellow will look into what? How many years this took for the construction? Say, it took about 75 years. So you mean to say people have been working on one construction site for 75 years? One job they were doing for years together? Is it possible to do like that? Because we are from the direction of what? If you are working with a company for 4 years, what are you supposed to do? On site. Get a different company. Go to a different company. Go to a different place. Don't go to that same office. At least go to a different office. Different project. Imagine a person there to be working on one project for 30 years. You see, he will look at it only from his angle. What is his angle of action only comes into picture. 30 years, how can one fellow be put on one project? There's no meaning in that. That's not the way it should be, or that is the way it should be. That doesn't matter. The focus goes to what? Action. Now, what strikes you first? Now, you go to a funeral, right? You will see there also people behaving differently. There are people who will go, first thing they go and give a consolation to people. They immediately stand there and say, lean on to my shoulders. And there are people who don't care what is happening to them. They start crying. Why did you go? Yesterday only I spoke to you, no. As though if you speak to someone yesterday, next day they should not die or what? They say, and I remember when my father passed away, I couldn't control myself, I started laughing and moved out of the place. One lady came. My father had, pet name for her, Only my father used to call her in that name. So the father passed away, she came. She didn't look into any one of us. We're all there and she went past. She goes there and cries, who will call me by that name now? As though, it's like, that's called emotional personality. You see, it's not, I'm not saying, it's wrong. You see, that shows what is the personality type. And there are people who come and say, hey, you have to make arrangements for this, and all that. People will start coming now. So when they are coming, coffee, we have to arrange, for them. We will organize, we'll get coffee from there because we can't make coffee here. So we'll make coffee, all, immediately they get on to what is to be done there. You will see that, similar thing you can find in marriages also. Somebody else's daughter, son gets married. This fellow goes and sits and they are in tears. Oh, emotional type. You see? And there are people who will be, they just walk into the wedding, means you can straight away assume they will take care of few things. You don't have to worry about it. If they are there, means certain things are taken care of. That is active. Wherever they go, action. What is to be done? When you wake up in the morning, first thing that you get in you is what? To-do list. What is to be done today? Could be anything for breakfast, lunch, dinner, doesn't matter. What is to be done today, by the child going to school is I have to do my homework. That is for the child. That fellow will think only on that. He's not going to think what is for breakfast, lunch, dinner. And the man will think in terms of what are the meetings I have today. What are the papers I'm supposed to have? What are the mails I have to send today? What are the documents I have to sign today? That list. Straight away, what strikes you first thing in the morning is like this: you take very many unconnected things and then bring all that together. Somewhere you will see a thread, a leaning. Your personality has a leaning towards this is your Swadharma, this is your nature. Are you active? Are you emotional? Are you intellectual? Predominantly. Now we take Swadharma to be skill. The skill or your expertise is not Swadharma, please. See, you think, Swadharma is a career that you take. It doesn't make any difference. You can be a doctor who is very active. You can be a doctor who is emotional. You can be a doctor who is rational. You can be a sportsman who is active, a sportsman emotional, a sportsman intellectual. Now, sports doesn't define, remember. Your medicine doesn't define. You can be a driver, you can be an accountant, you can be a lawyer. That is your skill, remember. Swadharma is not a skill that you cultivate. Swadharma is to be assessed based on what is your predominant nature of emotional, intellectual, thinking. That means that intellectual or balanced. Balanced means both are not deeper. That's what it means. What you need to understand when we say an active category means he is emotional, also intellectual, rational, but both are lacking depth. So therefore, choose a path predominantly to be followed by you. That is why most of us, even though we put in effort in the spiritual path for a long period of time, we don't seem to be experiencing any spectacular growth. Why? Because you have never proportioned the effort according to your predominance. Proportion your spiritual efforts according to your predominance, not according to other things. That's where we make this mistake. Now, what is interesting here is the second point that you need to remember. This is active. But when it comes to the discussion of Karma Yoga, this path, this practice is recommended initially to everyone. Why? Is because many of us don't have that patience, that capacity to go through this process of diagnosis and then proportion our spiritual effort. This much of karma, this much of bhakti, this much of jnanam and all this. And in this karma, bhakti, jnanam, I don't know whether I have told you people, you need to remember, karma, bhakti, jnanam should not be discussed in vertical. Karma, bhakti, jnanam should be discussed horizontal. Vertical means which is superior, which is inferior. You see, karma, bhakti, when we are writing, we may be writing like that. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga for reading purpose. But factually, what you need to understand is karma, bhakti, jnanam, all three are equal. The problem we find with most of us is the practice that I am following is always superior. You see, what I am doing. Say, for example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a great bhakta. You sing music, you start singing bhajans in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he will start dancing. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa will freeze. You start singing Rama or Krishna, you say, you don't have to sing also. You just say enough. That's all. He will freeze. Middle of the road, he will freeze in the market. He will get into. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will not do that. Where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be dancing. Now, if you get inspired, if you get impressed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what you will also do? This is what we all understand. Spiritual path blunder we make is we look at him and we start imitating that. You look at Ramana, get inspired, you start imitating what Ramana did. Ramana went to Tiruvannamalai, what I am going to do? Book a flat in Tiruvannamalai. Ramana did not book a flat in Tiruvannamalai. Okay. He simply went. That's what he says. One fellow, asked him, you are talking so much about Grihastha. If you say Grihastha itself can give realization, there is no need of sannyasa, then why you did not? Why are you recommending me to take to Grihastha? Because somebody went to Ravana and asked, should I get married or not? Wrong question to be asked to them. If you want to know about marriage, go to Socrates, because he is married. Right? It's like, if I want to know about medicine, I go to an engineer. I send my ECG to an engineer and ask him, what do you read in that? Madness that is. You see, Ramana is not like me. He is very refined. So he gave, compassionately, he gave advice to this boy. He said, okay, see, if you want to grow spiritual, there's no necessity, man. You can grow spiritually, you can evolve and reach to even moksha, you can achieve through Grihastha also. Go ahead. Quietly you listen and get out. No. This fellow started showing his smartness to Ramana. That is why second question you should ever ask when you go to a guru, master, you ask one question and keep quiet. Don't ask next question to them. You ask a next question, you are finished. Right? Second question, this fellow. If you think so, then why you did not get married? He thought he is very smart. Ramana said, I didn't go to anyone and ask opinion. Should I get married or not? Get out, says. Same way. You should know whom to ask what. It's like you if you are living in that condition, you understand that. Don't go by that imitating things. The spiritual, we make a blunder, that small things, you take and start imitating those people. Very, very dangerous practice. Since we start with it, we all believe. So therefore, what advice given to a person who comes en bloc? First thing they will tell anybody who comes, they say, initial stages, it is safe to start with Karma Yoga. This. In fact, they'll say, you will do Karma Yoga anyway, do more of Karma Yoga. Forget about whatever proportion that you have understood. I have understood, sir, this is my proportion of my personality. Now I have to proportionally practice Karma Bhakti Jnanam. There also, whether you are capable of finding out your proportion or you are not going to do, either case, standard advice given to people is initially it is better to start with the practice of Karma Yoga more. Do little extra. See, something extra is, Kosuru we say, In Tamil, say, I don't know what you call that in English. Maybe there are certain words, don't have parallel. It's, kosuru, say. Like when you go to this buying vegetables in those days, nowadays, I don't know what is the condition now. Because I have forgotten going to buying vegetables for the last 1 year. I don't know what is happening and all that, in fact. We'll go to buy, still this, Vedeka, this one, that one, brinjal, this, that, all that we buy. After that, we'll ask him, give that little kadipata. Usually we don't pay and buy kadipata. So, they say, just give a little that, that's called kosuru. They just gives, okay, take it, man. That. This is the one, they say. Kadipata. Say. Do that little extra karma yoga, because karma yoga has a unique positioning. See, that's why karma yoga is more important. Very, very critical. One, vast majority will fall into the category of active, because we lack depth in our emotions, we lack depth in our thinking. So majority of us should be practicing karma yoga. One. Two, even if you are predominantly that, when you are starting your spiritual efforts, it is better to do little extra of, people recommend, in exercises they say, do little extra cardio. Don't need to worry about, muscle strengthening exercises and all that. Sometimes they will say, do little extra of flexibility training. Do little more of stamina building. So flexibility is there, strength is there, stamina is there. All these three should be balanced in your fitness training, isn't it? But recommended one for most of us is what? Because straight away these things directly connects to the vital organ, heartbeat. Therefore they say, first get that going. Afterwards, let's see about other things. Muscle, strengthening, flexibility, this, that, and all we will see later. First thing you need to get this done. Similarly, in the spiritual path, they say, first to go is karma yoga. Why karma yoga is given this unique positioning, sir? I suppose you are all following the steps, right? Now, karma yoga means you need to understand what is karma first. There are two words in that, karma and yoga. Karma literally means action, right? What is action? Any movement of the body is not considered as action in the spiritual sense. In the spiritual field, that means even your breathing is an action. Digestion is an action. Blood circulation is an action. But those things will not be considered here as action. What is considered as action is only the actions that is executed by you voluntarily. That is why human beings are given a choice of action. Other creatures don't have that choice. There is no choice for them. Now, when we say choice, what we mean is freedom. Only human being has a freedom for action. Right? What is freedom? For which you need to understand the contrary of that. What is slavery? Opposite of freedom is slavery. A slave means he cannot decide what is to be done, when to begin an action, when to stop an action. That's called a slave. Slave is one who doesn't have a choice that should I do, should I not do. I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't want to do it. That choice is given for us to start an action and stop an action willingly. Right? So only human beings have choice. And when you look at your life, this is where it is superb to observe life. One hand, we say you have a choice. On the other hand, if you carefully observe your life, do you actually have a choice? Huh? You just needs to be triggered. That's all. The moment the trigger comes into picture, after that do you have a choice? You need to be triggered. That's all. All that you have to do is show him the bottle. You just have to show that bottle. Not empty bottle is enough. You don't need to have even the container inside, the content inside. Just to show the container, the bottle is sufficient. He gets triggered. Now you go and tell that fellow, you're a human being, you have a choice now. Does he actually have a choice? If you are going to be living your life, the trigger comes, I get triggered. Means, are you living like a human or you are living like an animal? Is your life a human life or an animal life? If we see, it looks like as though most of us live almost like animals only. Just a trigger, that's about it. Otherwise, there's a slight difference is there, of course. There is a difference between what we eat, what animals eat. Even inside that animals also there is variance, no? How they eat, how we eat. They do see animals washing things and then eating. You know, it falls on the ground with the dirt. It takes and puts that in the river and takes it back and eats. Cleans all the things and then eats. They also do that. You also sleep, they also sleep. You're also born, they are also born. You're also breathing, they're also breathing. You also grow, they also grow. You also procreate, they also procreate. You also get old, they also get old. You also get disease, they also get disease. Now, where are we having this choice? The choice that he is talking about is the capacity to change. Only a human has a capacity to change, alter. Other animals don't have that capacity. If a tiger is born, it has to live its life as a tiger. It cannot change. A cow that is born as a cow has to live the life of a cow and die. There is no option. Only human beings have a possibility to change. Right? Change means what? He can choose at any point of time to go along in that direction or change the direction. See, he has to move his life is moving in a direction. When his life is moving in a direction, he can continue in that same direction, or he can completely move in the opposite direction also. Opposite direction means you can go in any direction. That's the meaning of it. This is where the question comes. What is going to be triggering him to make the course change, course correction? What is the reason for him to change? He can change, correct. But does he change? Doesn't seem to be. Most of our life doesn't seem to be having any change. Now, we are not talking about the cosmetic changes, please. The cosmetic changes keeps happening. That is not going to make any difference. You know, I saw one of our fellow, full white hair, like our SVR Shetty, full white. Next class, you are sitting in the same class, full black. Is it? Hey, full black can turn full white. That is possible. How can full white turn to full black? It's a cosmetic change. You see, you can make that change. You can do something. That's what we do nowadays for wedding. There's a time. Once wedding means, only that house people will make some, makeup they do, and then they'll go for wedding. That's all it is. Later it came that, the bride will go for makeup, bridal makeup. This is a special one. Now they engage people to do makeup for visitors also, guests also. Those who come for the wedding, there is a separate counter there. So go for makeup and come. Next day, the husband gets confused. Where is my wife? He says, where is she? She's not there. Why? He went and washed her face and comes back. You look into all that, wedding albums, amazing it is. Cosmetic change. That sort of a change can be done at the behavioral level. This cosmetic corrections are possible even with animals also to some extent. Isn't it? You can train animals to do certain things. Similarly, we can also make some behavioral corrections. Now, when we say change, are we talking about behavioral corrections here? You see, you have to stand in a particular way. You have to shake your hands in a particular way. People teach that. You're supposed to shake your hands. You have to salute in a particular way. Army salute is different. Navy salute is different. Air Force salute is different. From the salute you can understand from where that fellow is. That's a training. You see, you can get a particular training done. Now, when we say you can change, we are not talking about cosmetic changes. We are talking about character change itself. Your entire action possibilities changes. There you need to recognize action means actions performed at the level of the body and at the level of the speech, kayikam, vachikam, manasam, mental, thoughts. Action performed at the level of body, action performed at the level of speech, action performed at the level of thoughts. Correction means we are correcting from where? Why we have to do the correction? There was a dog race competitions used to be happening. dogs. There used to be a race, you know, in a village or a town, or every year they'll conduct. There was a dog which comes first. Gold, the moment the dog participates the race, the dog wins the gold always. Any competition, wherever he is going, everywhere he is winning gold. And the dog owner is so happy, so satisfied with the dog. So obviously, since the dog is such a prestigious one, such a great one, special food for that, special grooming for it, there are bodyguards for the dog. He had the bouncers for the dog also, going along with him wherever he is taken. The dog owner is so proud of that dog. And the dog must have been feeling so happy, is what the dog owner thought. But the dog was thinking very differently. The dog was feeling, and I am also running. But of course, I am getting gold medal, all this. But I could not catch the rabbit. Was his problem, because it's not like our horse riding and all that, where you can sit on the horse and whip it. Once the gates open, you whip it will start running. Now here it's not like that. These dogs needs to be motivated to run. No. So what they used to do is they would place a rabbit in front, and the dogs will run to catch that rabbit. And that dog never caught that rabbit. His life mission was to catch that rabbit. Right? Just running. One competition, he caught that rabbit. Okay. Once he caught that rabbit, what is the first reaction? First thing the dog will do? How they will catch? It catches through its front legs and bites the rabbit. The good taste it has, for the dog. I don't know about for humans or not. I'm talking about the dogs. If you say, yeah, correct, sir, means you are, that category. Okay. I'm talking about for the dogs, it is, very. The moment he bit that rabbit, he realized it is not a live rabbit, it is a robo rabbit. It is a mechanical device which was running. It looks like a rabbit, but it is actually what? Remote controlled one. So the fellow sitting there was controlling it and making it move faster. Thereby it motivates to run and win the gold medal. That is the owner thought. Once that dog caught that rabbit, it understood that it's not a real rabbit. All these days he was running behind that rabbit thinking what? It is the real rabbit. Now that he has realized that it is not a real rabbit, next competition, what had happened? The gates opened, the rabbit was running, and the dog started. Taka, 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 it was running. After few steps, suddenly the dog realized, hey, the original, it's not a rabbit. Last time when I bit that, I got a pain in my tooth also, because it's machine, iron. Tooth pain is still there. And now it is there. He stopped. For the first time, the dog lost the race. Second time, they thought, okay, something has gone wrong, and they took that dog to the next competition. In the next competition, what had happened? The dog took 2 steps and stopped. At least in the previous one, it ran halfway and stopped. Now, 2 steps and stopped, because it knows it's not interesting for it, because it's not a real rabbit. Now you can't tell that owner, now you put a real rabbit there. That is also not possible, because 2 leaps that fellow will catch the rabbit and then he will stop running. So his job is not to feed the dog. His job is to ensure the dog runs the race and wins the medal. Stopped. Third race, he is refusing to come out itself. Right. Then that owner thought, what? No point in holding the dog anymore. So what happened? All that special, food, that is pedigree, this one, that one, all that is being given to the dog is stopped. And this bodyguard's gone. This gone. All that is gone. And the dog owner took the dog and left it on the street and went away. Because now it is a nuisance value. He is not like he's keeping it as a pet. The dog owner is not keeping this dog as a pet. He is keeping the dog for the purpose of getting the gold medal. If he is not going to be winning in the races, it's of no use to me. So he left. The dog was sitting on the street. Suddenly the dog realized, hey, I can do whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. Such a freedom I have. All these days, there's nothing. This is exactly the condition of human also. All your lifetime, you are running. You are acting. No doubt about it. You see, so much of action, so much of dynamism, so much of work you do. Not that you are not working. Right? There are people even after retirement work. But that work is like the dog running behind that rabbit. Once it catches that rabbit, the dog looks more intelligent than us. Because once it has understood that it is not, it stopped running behind. But what we do, we replace the rabbit with something else. Rabbit is replaced with a cat, maybe. Instead of rabbit, you put a cat. After some time, you run behind the cat now. That is also what's that? Mechanical only. That is also not real. Now, every time when you are acting, your actions were all propelled, motivated, forced. You run behind it helplessly, as it were, by the rabbit of your desires. The desires that is driving the whole thing. Unless you understand, that's where intellect is very important. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna introduces Karma Yoga, he introduces it as Buddhi Yoga. He doesn't call it as Karma Yoga. He calls it as Buddhi Yoga. Why? Because it is the presence of that intellect is such an important one. For you to practice this Karma Yoga. Therefore, he called it as Buddhi Yoga. Now, with karma, what are we doing, sir? With karma, with action, all our actions were directed towards the fulfillment of a desire. You put in effort, yes. You run. You run only to catch that rabbit. The dog was not running to win the gold medal. Remember, the dog was running in the race. For what? Not for the medal. The dog was running for the rabbit. You are running not for getting things apparently. You are running to catch that rabbit. Accumulation. I want to get it. I want to get it. I'm running, running, running. I'm doing all sorts of things. Only for what? Only to win the heart of the other person. Accumulation. Don't think accumulation means only with reference to wealth, please. It can be even to win the attention of another person. I do so much to win the attention of another person. I do so much to gain that knowledge of something. See, you can do, but all this is done with reference to what, sir? You are doing it to fulfill your desires. In that attempt, does your desires get fulfilled? We know not. You win the gold medal, but you never catch the rabbit. And what Vedanta gives here is Karma Yoga is training to catch that rabbit and realizing that rabbit is not real. Once that rabbit is not real happens, what happened to the dog? Stop running. That is the next chapter, renunciation. Karma Yoga leads to renunciation. That's how he fuses that. Leads to the next chapter. Of course, we'll see that more when we go to renunciation chapter. But right now, our focus is don't fall with the idea that you are interested in winning the race. Your concentration is on getting that rabbit, which is not real. But you can understand it only after catching that rabbit. Karma Yoga is to give you this understanding, give you this recognition that your pursuit of desires is making you bind more and more and more, and leads more and more frustration in you, more and more irritations in you. So as we start living our life more and more, we get more and more frustrated instead of more and more blissful. Life is not blissful as you live longer. It is frustrating. That's why we want to stop action. We say we give up the ghost. We say, oh, waste man, leave it. No point in running. No point in running. Now that no point in running without catching that rabbit, moving back is considered by many people as renunciation, sannyasa. That is resignation. That is not renunciation. You see, you need to capture it and understand it. But our problem is we keep replacing it. One group of people give up the ghost, resignate. Another group of people replace. You see, that replacement is the problem. And for every one of us, our belief is this, that agony, the pain that you will go through in the process of accumulation remains the same for everyone. Remember this. The agony experienced by that person who is missing that 1,000 rupees. Remember one of that maid, who was working with me, that maid is not maid is a lady, he's a male attendant. He was there, the place where I was living for some time. He had some visitor, somebody had come to meet, see him, and he was talking to him and all that. After he went, I didn't ask that fellow who he is and all that. He said, who has come to meet me? Big fellow, sir. So he's a very big guy. I said, in a big fellow. He said, he is a very big man. They're all, big people. They don't treat us as, equal to them. They're relatives only, but what is his level? His argument is, his house rent 2,000 rupees. He's living in a house and he is paying rent, not even own house, rented house. That fellow is paying 2,000 rupees as a rent. This man is calling that fellow as, they're all big people, sir. For him, he looks so big. Why? Because he is struggling to match his things, because he is getting 8,000 rupees a month. And he is struggling and fighting to get that another 1,000 rupees in, increment. Make it 9,000, sir. That agony that he is going through to move is the same agony experienced by a fellow who is attempting to move from 90 crores to 100 crores. His business turnover is 90. He is attempting to bring it to 100 crores. That 10 crores, that agony that he is not able to pull that. That's what the queen said, no, I am not able to meet my ends. Therefore, give me more. The Queen of England has approached the state saying, I am not able to meet both my ends. Therefore, give me increment. Give me more, he said. And the parliament has to pass a bill for giving more for them. She says that agony that she is going through, that she is not able to meet the ends, is the same agony this will also go through. But what is so interesting for all of us is, every one of us believe the agony that I am going through for the lack of not able to get what I wanted is big. His agony is not a big problem. My agony is a real agony. And we think, why? What is his problem? 90 crores you have? No. Be happy with that 90. No. Is what this fellow will say. This guy who is moving from 8,000 rupees to 9,000 rupees. He will say, 90 crores is there now for you. He can never understand the agony of that fellow. And most of us think, as I acquire more and more and more, the very fact that I'm attempting to acquire is only to get rid of that agony. My agony will come down, is what the belief is. That's where you are getting completely duped. This duping is done by your own desires. Your own desires, your own likes and dislikes. I would prefer you people replace that word, desires, to likes and dislikes, because you can understand that much easier. You can connect to it much easier, likes and dislikes. You do actions, you do everything in life driven by your likes or a dislike. Either you like something you do, or you dislike something you do according to your dislikes. Now, what is interesting is, Karma Yoga is a principle where you use that same thing in a different format. Shankara, in his commentary, he gives in his Bhashya, he gives a beautiful example. He says, you take curd straight, it's not good for health. Right? Dietitians, I don't know, because one group of dietitians say it is very good, another group of dietitians say it's very bad. One group of dietitians says it depends on how you prepare it. That's why I stopped discussing with any dietitians. Okay. But it's so interesting. These people had this concept during Shankara's period. Shankara's period, they had this thought of this. Whereas the same curd, you mix a little sugar and then have, little sugar you add and then have with that curd, it is healthy, agreeable to the system. Same action, same desires that you are following, all those things, mix it with a little sugar. There, karma gets adapted to karma yoga. That's all it is. It is not that you should not take curd. No, no, no. Have curd. You have your desires. We don't care about it. You have that desire, you have that thing. But mix a little of sugar to it and then have it. Then it is very healthy for you. It is good to your system. This is what Shankara gives. A very common one we'll say is you take a thorn using a thorn. Use another thorn to take a thorn embedded in the flesh. Same way here. But I prefer Shankara's example because you have that curd, little sugar with that you have it. It is good because it curd is supposed to kindle heat into the body and all those things. Some reasoning these people have. So you go to mix something with it and have anything like that you can add. Now you can add the examples. Don't worry about curd and sugar and all that, please. All that you need to understand is something is taken as it is, not agreeable. Something added to that and then taken becomes pretty much agreeable. Carbon dioxide inhaled is bad. When it is bottled and drank, it is agreeable to the system, no? Isn't it? That is okay, but this is not okay. Same way, same thing in a different format. That is called karma yoga, where you do that action, you recognize your desires, likes and dislikes are there, all those things are there. Along with that, you add something to it. Then it is karma yoga. What is to be added is what he is going to give next. Right. We'll see you in the next class.